Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Thursday. It's a beautiful sunny day outside. See if you can pop outside and get a little sunshine and vitamin D. It's good for the immune system. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you tuning in. We have a lot of news today, so bear with me as I run through a lot of important announcements, most particularly about schools, something I know a lot of people have been waiting to hear about. And I just want to thank you. I want to thank members of the press for going along with this format, for doing a terrific job of working overtime to keep the people of Rhode Island informed. I know a lot of you haven't had a day off, so I appreciate your extra work and attention to the facts. And to all the people of Rhode Island, thank you for tuning in. My hope with these press conferences is that it gives you a minute to take a breath, sit down and get the information you need to keep you and your family safe and informed and adapt to this new way of living. You know, that's really what this is about. This is it. This is how we're living now. Every day is different, and we have to adapt to what's before us, and staying informed is absolutely key to making that possible. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. The numbers are on the screen, as they always are. Unfortunately, our cases are still climbing. Every day I get these numbers in the morning, and every day I hope to see them going down, which is what we know needs to happen before we can safely really reopen the economy. And today, unfortunately, you see we have another 412 cases, so more than yesterday. And, very sadly, another 8 deaths. So we are stable, as I've said. This is stable. It's in the range of what we've been seeing, but still haven't turned the corner. And today's an uptick. And, of course, you never want to see more deaths. So I'm just going to ask you to hang in there, continue to stay at home, continue to do social distancing. It's getting harder every day because we're all getting itchy. But the truth of the matter is we are not out of the woods. I wish we were. We are not out of the woods, and we've worked too hard for too long to throw away that great work. So let's keep the foot on the accelerator of social distancing just a bit longer so that we can get over the hump and then, get to a place where we can start to think about reopening our economy. I want to make a brief mention of a little bit of good news. As I have mentioned in the past, the state has received some federal stimulus money. $625 million of that money has landed in the state's bank account, so that is a great thing. It's the Coronavirus Relief Fund. Again, huge thank you to Senators Reid and Whitehouse, Congressman Cicilline and Congressman Langevin. In fact, I talked to Congressman Langevin last night, Congressman Cicilline. They're driving to Washington to take a key vote today on another piece of the stimulus. So thank you guys for fighting every day for Rhode Island. Late last night, we received a little bit of guidance from Treasury on how we could use this stimulus money, and that's, of course, a great thing. We're still waiting for more guidance. We'll be getting more guidance from the federal government, from the Government Accounting Office, around how we can use the money, how we have to account for the money. So, and we're waiting for the additional tranche of money. But again, I want to say thank you to the federal delegation, and I want to assure the people of Rhode Island that of course, we're going to follow all the rules that the federal government puts out, and we are committed to total transparency and accountability around how we're going to allocate these funds. The reality is we need it. This is really tough. We have 170,000 people filing for unemployment, people really in need of help to stand their businesses back up. We're spending lots of money on testing and contact tracing, public health. So we're going to need every penny of it, and I'm so grateful to Congress and our federal delegation and to the President for moving swiftly to make this happen. The areas that we need money for right away are obviously fully funding the public health and emergency response, softening the blow to this economy, and building a safe path back to work through further investments in helping our small businesses to make their places of work safe, job training, education, economic development, all kinds of business support. We want to maximize every penny that we can get from the federal government. We want to continue to make investments in government services. I mentioned yesterday that we're improving the way we're delivering unemployment insurance, improving our technology. We have to continue to adapt and invest so we can take care of every single Rhode Islander and your needs as we go through this. And then just obviously investing in our healthcare system. This is an extremely challenging time for our hospitals and for our nursing homes, our home health care agencies. So as I said, we're going to need every penny, and we have to shore up our healthcare system and our business community so that we can get through this. And there'll be much more to say. Congress, as I said, is meeting again today to pass another stimulus bill. We know that they're working yet on another stimulus bill. The governors have a call tomorrow with the president and vice president. I think they may share the outlines of the next stimulus bill. So there's still a fair bit of uncertainty. As I said yesterday, in about a month, I hope we'll have a much better handle on the finances here in the state and what we can count on from the federal government, and also the guidelines from the federal government on how we can use this. Long-winded way of saying, money's coming in, we're going to need it, and we're going to use it to the best of our abilities to protect the health, safety, and employability of all the people of Rhode Island. Okay, the main topic for today is schools. And it's a topic that I know everybody's been waiting to know. What are we going to do about our schools? Not a day goes by that many, many, many people, including my two children, don't ask me, what are you going to do about schools, Governor? Are we going to reopen them? You're going to keep them closed? And so today, I want to spend the next few minutes telling you the decision that I've made, why I've made it, and what I want to see us do as a state and as a community in order to get through the rest of the school year. So first, let me acknowledge distance learning is not easy. I know that. I know that as a mother. I know that as a governor. I know that as someone with a lot of friends and family and who I listen to. And it's taken a toll on all of us. It's taking a toll on parents, many of whom are trying to adjust to themselves working from home and also helping their kids learn from home. Our kids are having a hard time not seeing their friends, not knowing when they'll see their friends again, struggling in some cases to learn, especially the younger kids, having a bit of a harder time learning in distance learning. I know you guys wish you could be playing sports and dancing and doing your extracurricular activities, and you're not able to do that. Distance learning has been particularly challenging for those with differing abilities. And I hear you, and I know that. You're doing a great job, but it's not perfect. And it's frankly been stressful for teachers. Teachers are working more and harder with distance learning in many cases than traditional classroom learning. Some of it is just because it's different. No one's ever done this before. We're doing things together, we, the people of Rhode Island, that have never been done before. I think sometimes when this gets tough, remind yourself of how unprecedented this is. It's hard. Yes, of course it's hard. That's why it's never been done before, and let's hope never has to be done again. So there's teachers that are balancing a full workload, many of whom have their kids at home doing distance learning. And all the teachers we talk to are working their heart out to try to be creative, to reach their kids and engage the students and make sure every student has some semblance of the one-on-one learning, which is, the magic of teaching. And so it's hard, and I don't deny that, and it is not perfect, and you miss out. But I'll tell you this, turns out you're really good at it. Turns out you're among the best in America at it, because I've looked at all the data. You're doing it, and by every measure, you're doing an amazing job. Every single week, we have improved access to technology and connected more families to the internet. Nearly every district now reports that every single family has the tools and technology they need for distance learning. We have worked so hard as a state to close that gap. I want to thank Kevin Gallagher in my office. I want to thank Cox and Verizon and Sprint and all the public-private partnerships, all the superintendents, Commissioner Infante Green. It's nothing short of miraculous how much you've closed the gap. Now, if you're out there and you're hearing me say this, and you don't have a computer that you need, and you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have access to the internet, I want you to get in touch with me, because we want you to have what you need to learn. Call the governor's office, email the governor's office, go on Facebook, get to me, and we're going to get you the Wi-Fi you need or internet or tools somehow to make sure that you can do the learning you need to. One of the biggest fears that, myself included, that many of us had going into this was that students weren't going to engage. Students would just lock themselves in their room and disengage. That is not what's happening at all. By every measure, engagement is very high. Participation rates in distance learning have been truly remarkable. And again, that is not true in every state. If you look at other states, we are at the top of engagement. Statewide, we've seen over 90% participation almost every single day of distance learning. When I've been looking at these numbers, often it's 95, 96, 97+% on a daily basis of engagement with distance learning. That's incredible. It's really extraordinary. So I want to say I'm proud of you. If you're a teacher, give yourself a pat on the back. If you're a parent, if you're a student, social worker, educator, coach, take a second right now and give yourself a pat on the back and know that you've blown me away with your work, your hard work, and your great results. And believe me, I know you have your ups and downs. There's still glitches. There will continue to be. But if you had told me on March 16th, which is when we made this decision, that I'd be able to stand here today and say that our participation rates were above 90%, that most children were learning and learning well, that teachers were adapting as well and as quickly as they are, I don't think I would have believed it. So, hats off to every one of you. Now comes for the decision. And I should say it's not a decision that's been an easy one for me. But in light of the fact that we're doing such a good job, we still haven't reached our peak, and we're still seeing increased cases, I've decided we need to continue distance learning K through 12 in our public schools for the remainder of the school year. And to be very honest, I had hoped to wind up in a different place. I had hoped to wind up in a different place. I wanted to be able to say, you know, maybe the last few weeks of school we could go back to school. I wanted to give these kids a chance to end their school year in a traditional setting. The reality is I can't. The data just doesn't support it. And to take that much risk for a few weeks of traditional school, I know would be irresponsible and the wrong decision for all the people of Rhode Island. So as hard as you've been working, and and many of you, maybe some of you say, oh, I wanted to go back to school, it's just not the right thing. And I've studied this. I have talked, not only have I talked to public health here and in other states and read all the data and in other countries and et cetera, I've talked to most superintendents, if not all, consulted with the mayors, many teachers, teacher leaders, parents, parent groups, I've been listening as much as I can, accepting feedback, and the consensus recommendation of all of those discussions is that we have to do distance learning for the rest of the year. I also have been spending a lot of time talking to other governors, either one-on-one or in group calls, and 39 other governors have already called it this year for the rest of the school year. Even in places, like Georgia and Texas, where they're reopening their economy as early as Monday, they've all decided not to reopen schools this year. So the truth is, it's a hard decision. After a lot of thinking and listening, I'm confident it is the right decision, although not an easy one. And here's the important part. It's made. It's the decision that's been made. This is what we're doing. So now we get to work on making the best of it. It's going to be a good decision because we're going to make it together a good decision, because we're going to get to work right now making our plans. And by the way, that includes making plans for the rest of this academic year, so the learning is fresh and interesting and good and engaging, as well as for the summer, and then make certain and make sure we do everything we can so that we can reopen in September. The summer, we're going to spend a lot of effort right now. Now that I've made this decision, it frees up our time and ability to start planning for everything else. My collective message to everybody is let's finish strong. Let's together finish strong. I'm going to do it. As your governor, I'm committed to that. As a mother, I'm committed to that. Let's finish this year strong. Today, I began by going through the details of how great you're doing with distance learning. Let's make it so that in a month and 2 months from now, I can get back up here again and say, Rhode Island stands out in America as the best results for distance learning. Let's hit the cover off the ball and not lose steam, because frankly, it is too important. So to students, that means buckle down and don't slack off. Today, maybe you have some mixed feelings today. Maybe you will be bummed. I know that. A lot of you are bummed. You're not going to see your friends, sports, the whole thing. That's natural. Give yourself some time to feel that way. But wake back up tomorrow and let's get at it. Make a plan. Now you know. Now you have some finality. You know you're not going to go back into your school buildings. So figure out plans you can make with your friends, with your teachers, with the adults in your lives to make the best of the rest of this year. And know that we are committed to making the best of it for you too. The commissioner is going to talk in a few minutes. She's hard at work with her team on coming up with all kinds of new ideas to make it even more innovative. We've heard from a lot of the students that they're learning, but it's getting a little boring. So the commissioner is full of energy and ideas. She's a top-notch educator herself. She's been working with teachers, and they're going to have some special ideas to make it fresh and new and even more engaging for you so that you can finish the year strong. RIDE is also going to be issuing a statewide calendar for the month of May and June. This will allow us to ensure that every teacher has time for lesson planning and professional development. And we are not giving up on this last however many weeks of learning. So we heard from a lot of teachers and principals and superintendents to please set the calendar. So we've heard you, RIDE's setting the calendar. We're giving you time for planning, and we are counting on you to continue your excellent professional work. And to our families, to all the families out there who may be feeling very frustrated with this announcement that I've just made, I'm not saying we'll see you in September. I am definitely not saying that. In the coming weeks, I'm going to be making more announcements around additional child care. I know we have to get back into the business of providing child care. We're going to work overtime to make sure summer programming is as excellent as it can be. Maybe it's not going to be as it's been in the past, But we, again, with this decision behind us, we're going to shift our attention to finishing the year strong and making sure that summer is excellent, innovative, and filled with learning opportunities for your kids. And then, of course, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we're ready for September. It's a complicated thing. A lot of people say, oh, well, kids are doing fine with the COVID virus. They're not the ones getting sick. That is true. That is true. Thank God that is true. But you've got to think about busing children, keeping them secure, feeding the children, all the folks over 60 there, making sure the kids, everything is cleaned appropriately. It's a complex operation to run a school, which is something that we had to take into account. I know there are some parents out there who say now that they need extra support and some students, so bear with me for just a couple more minutes. I want to make a few announcements. For parents who are having trouble supporting their kids with distance learning, I'm very proud we've heard you. We keep trying to listen to needs and meet needs. I want to announce today that RIDE is going to be working with the Highlander Institute and to expand their distance learning helpline to parents and families. Teachers have been using this resource since March 24th, and now it's available to parents who have questions on how to best support students during their distance learning experience. So if you're a parent and you're hearing me say this, you're struggling a little bit with distance learning, maybe with the technology, you can call this helpline, 904-414-4927, or go online to the highlanderinstitute.org. I also want to take a minute to address the mental health needs that our kids have, and remind everyone, parents and kids themselves, about Kids Link. Kids Link is a 24/7 hotline that parents can call when they feel their kids need more and better access to mental health. Maybe your kids are angry, anxious, acting out, depressed, lashing out at their siblings. The number there is 1-855-543-5465. It's a hotline, it's 24/7, it's run by Bradley Hospital. They're operating as a kind of a one-stop shop. They will talk to you, help you assess your needs, and then connect you with the right professional who can help you and your kids with your mental health needs. Don't be shy to reach out. There's not a person out there in Rhode Island who's not struggling in some way living with what's going on. So if you're anxious, depressed, sad, and you need help, particularly if it's severe or different, I want you to call Kids Link and get the help you need. And don't forget, executive order I signed, it's got to be covered by insurance, and it's got to be covered by insurance if it's delivered over the telephone, if your care is delivered over the telephone, the same as it would be if it were delivered in an office. Okay, I want to look right into the camera and talk to my special friends in the class of 2020. This is a bummer. There is no other way for me to say it. And I'm sorry. You guys, this was your senior year of spring. You were going to be the captain of your sports team. You were going to go to your prom. You were going to hang out with your friends, spring flings, have, and Alika laughs, it's true. We were all teenagers. We went through it. The spring of your senior year is supposed to be fun time, hanging out with your friends, walking across the aisle and picking up your diploma, throwing the cap into the air. And now all of a sudden, coronavirus comes along. And I'm telling you, you're stuck in your house for learning, and everything's going to be different. So it's a tough message, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Proms, traditional proms, and traditional in-person graduations, like we had, aren't going to be possible this spring. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. We're going to do lots of other stuff. We're going to make it great. We're going to make it fun. We're going to get creative. And we're going to recognize you and your talent and your accomplishment in new and different ways. And you are too. So later today or soon, the RIDE is going to send out guidance to your superintendents with some suggestions around fun things we can do to help you celebrate, and also guidelines. And within those guidelines, I want you to get creative. Come up with new, fun, interesting ways to celebrate yourselves and your friends. And we have a few things up our sleeve too, to make sure that you get the recognition that you deserve. And I promise you, you'll never forget it. I promise you, you'll never forget it. I'm also excited to announce that we'll be partnering with Rhode Island PBS to host a statewide television graduation special to commemorate the class of 2020 this June. The broadcast will have special guest speakers, musical performances, and contributions from you guys. So we're going to make it one way or another so that you have some experience of, walking across that stage, grabbing your diploma, and getting the congratulations that you deserve. And trust me, we're going to do our best, and it's going to be better than we might think. And now, one last thing. My kids always tease me that we can't finish without an assignment, so I do also have an assignment. It's not just fun for the class of 2020. Here's your assignment. While you're home, if you're a senior, find a little extra time, I want you to complete your FAFSA. The FAFSA is the financial aid form that'll help you figure out what aid you're eligible for to go to college. It's not a fun form to fill out. I wish the federal government would simplify it. It is what it is, so let's get it done. Almost 60% of the class of 2020 has already filled out the FAFSA. Way to go. That makes Rhode Island 4th in the nation for FAFSA completion so far. So let's make Rhode Island number one. Number one. The FAFSA will help you find money for college, and I want every single one of you to fill it out. All of you. Every one of you. Maybe some of you are saying, I could never afford to go. Well, you don't know until you fill out the form. So my challenge is to fill out the form. You have until June 30th. And RIDE has partnered with the Student Loan Authority and the College Crusade to help you figure out how to fill out the form. Finally, I want to speak to the kids directly, continue to speak to them. A few weeks ago, I did a kids press conference with my husband, Andy, and it was pretty fantastic. You sent your questions in ahead of time. We received more than 15,000 questions, so we're going to do it again. Thursday, April 30th, a week from today, at 1 o'clock, I'm going to hold another kids press conference, just like we did it before. We're going to ask you to send your questions in advance. You don't need to tell us your name or your school if you don't want to. Just give us a chance to hear what's on your mind and give us a chance to answer your questions. So that's next week at 1 o'clock on Thursday. So there you have it. That's our plan. Let's get to work. Let's make it great, and let's make sure we give these kids the very best that we can and that they deserve. Two other announcements briefly. Yesterday, I talked to those among us who were 60 and older, and I got a strong reaction back, particularly from very active people who are in their 60s. First phone call I got was from my brother, who reminded me he hasn't taken a week off in 6 weeks. He's a physician. So let me just allay some fears. You're going to be able to continue to go to work. We love you and want you to stay active. But the point of my comment, and I was advised by public health folks to make it, was just to say, look, this is different now, and we have to do what we need to do to keep ourselves safe. And not every 60-year-old is in the same situation. I'll be the first to acknowledge that. But the fact is, the older you are, if you have underlying health issues, the virus is more dangerous. So I just want everyone to start preparing themselves for having the necessary support in place to keep yourselves healthy and safe. It's a note to employers. It's a note to all of us. So I'm sorry if I created confusion. We don't have any particular regulations. In no way ever will we do anything to be discriminatory or reduce your chances of keeping a job or getting a job. It was just a way to say we want everybody to be safe. So take a minute to pause and think ahead and realize, we're going to be adapting to this virus for at least a year. And we want to make sure everybody, wherever they are in the stage of life, is safe, has access to the health care they need, and takes all the necessary precautions. Finally, tonight marks the start of Ramadan. For thousands of Rhode Islanders, this will mean celebrating the holiest time of the year physically apart from your faith community. And again, I know it's hard. We've been through Passover together through coronavirus. We've been through Easter through coronavirus. And now we're going to go through Ramadan through coronavirus. And I know many of you in the Muslim community wait all year for this time of the year to pray, to fast, to be together as a community, to be close with your friends and family and in your faith community. Last year, I had the privilege of breaking the fast with hundreds of people in the Islamic community at the Islamic School of Rhode Island. And we had a great time. The food was fantastic, and it was really special for me to be part of that community. So I have a feeling for how difficult this is going to be. You're not going to be able to get together in community and break the fast. You do need to obey social distancing, which at this point is 5 or fewer, and the stay-at-home order is still in effect. So our hearts go out to you, and our prayers and our thoughts are with our Muslim brothers and sisters as you begin your holy celebration tonight. Now I'm going to turn it over to the Commissioner of Education, since today is our Education Day, and then we'll hear from Dr. Nicole.
Thank you, Governor, for your leadership in this challenging time, and I can assure you that she has not made this decision lightly. She's consulted, and we've had many calls, and here we are. But the good part about this is that Rhode Island is a model for the nation on many fronts now, including education. Who would have said that 10 months ago? Who would have said that 2 months ago? So we're setting an example for other leaders to follow. Across the state, our entire education community has risen to the challenge of conducting distance learning during a public health crisis, and they have delivered amazing results. Our participation numbers remain strong, as the governor mentioned. Our teachers remain engaged and focused. Our superintendents, charter school leaders, leaders of our state-run schools continue to work around the clock, and I mean 24/7. To support learning. While we don't have as much formal role with these other schools, but I have to note that the private and parochial schools have stepped up in a very impressive fashion, and we have been communicating and working together. And our families have found a way to balance their work while supporting their students, although it's a daily struggle, and believe me, I know it firsthand. I have 2 kids in my house. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity for my kids to continue to learn, as I know you are as well. We have seen companies, philanthropy groups, and individual citizens step up to provide access to devices to make sure that nearly every student in Rhode Island has access to distance learning. In many places, the answer was different, was we don't have enough, so we're not going to do it. In Rhode Island, we said we don't have enough, we're going to get to 100%, and we have rallied. So that's the difference. That's why we are leading the nation. So I want to thank the generosity and give thanks for all the generosity that has taken place with all of Rhode Island, pushing forward, being supportive as we move forward. But above all, I've seen our young people are still hungry to learn. No matter what the obstacles are in their path, every time I talk to them, they tell me how distance learning is better than what they expected, and that they don't lose out on their school experience. I've met with high school students who have said, well, it's great, but motivation is hard. So we are talking to you to help us continue to motivate and innovate. It's coming from you. We need your voice as we continue. And as a result of everybody's effort, including my outstanding, and I have to say it again, outstanding staff at RIDE, we're in the lead. And it feels nice to be in the lead in education. In my view, the can-do spirit of our distance learning effort is exactly what we need to push forward in the coming years to make our education system the best in the nation. We have a lot of work to do, but we have tapped into a deep well of energy, creativity, and dedication. Now that we know that we are conducting distance learning for the rest of the school year, we can turn our attention to making the best experience possible for all our students. We can focus on finishing strong. Our team is already working on systems leaders to plan the rest of the school year and to maximize learning every day. And we're going to be talking to you, students. We talked to teachers this morning. We are constantly communicating because we want to hear your ideas. As I approach the 1 year, because I haven't been here a year, I have to say that this is one of my proudest moments because we are moving forward. We have not given up on education, and we continue to move forward and innovate. I want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you, with extreme gratitude. Now I want to take a moment to speak to the Latino community. Quiero coger un momento para hablarle a la comunidad latina. Quiero que entienda lo que ha pasado hoy. Hoy vamos a seguir la distancia, el aprendizaje de distancia, porque es importante que nuestros niños sigan aprendiendo. La gobernadora dijo que porque vamos a terminar el año así, no significa que ya vamos a echar las manos para arriba, pero tienen que seguir aprendiendo. Es sumamente importante. Y yo sé que es difícil, nosotros todos sabemos que es difícil. La gobernadora acaba de decir que ella tiene niños en la casa y sabe que es difícil trabajar y ayudarlo y apoyarlo. Nosotros lo entendemos. Pero también entendemos que los niños de nosotros merecen, oigan bien, merecen seguir aprendiendo. Y nosotros estamos dispuestos a darle esa oportunidad a sus hijos. Otra cosa que es muy importante, la comunidad latina ha sido impactada por el COVID-19 de una manera que nosotros no esperábamos. Les rogamos, por favor, pónganse las mascarillas cuando salgan. Manténganse a distancia. Yo sé que nosotros somos una comunidad muy calurosa, pero tenemos que mantener las distancias ahora, porque nosotros no podemos dejar que este virus nos impacte a nosotros de la manera que nos ha sido impactado. Les ruego y les pido que sigan hacia adelante, que nosotros estamos aquí para apoyarlo todos los días y queremos oír sus voces. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. I also want to take a moment to thank and applaud all the teachers, school administrators, school staff, families, students, and everyone else who is a part of school communities in Rhode Island, with particular appreciation to Commissioner Infante Green and her team, as well as the governor and her team. This has been an enormously difficult time for many, but Rhode Island has truly risen to the occasion. Our students and school communities are among the many people and groups that have stepped up, have been flexible, and have done everything possible to keep soldiering on. So in terms of data, very briefly, we have 412 new cases. Our state total is now 6,256 cases. Sadly, as the governor mentioned, we also have 8 additional fatalities. Our deepest sympathies and condolences are with the families of these people. Of the 8, 4 were in their 60s, 2 were in their 70s, 1 person was in their 80s, and 1 person was in their 90s. There were 4 nursing home residents among the 8 people whose passings we are announcing today. Of all the questions we get asked from the press, some of the most frequent ones are about numbers for nursing homes. To make data on nursing homes as clear and as accessible as possible, we will post a table on our data page on the Rhode Island Department of Health website's dashboard with numbers for specific nursing homes this afternoon so that people can assess them. I'm going to stop there and get us started with questions.
Good afternoon. Hello. We begin with Steve Alquist of Uprise RI. The Rhode Island Coalition for the Homeless released a model today projecting that at any given point in time, nearly 800 Rhode Islanders experiencing homelessness will require some level of emergency accommodations due to COVID-19. Are we ready for this?
We are. We have more than 200 rooms now, and if we need more, we'll find more. I mentioned at the beginning that we're receiving federal stimulus money. That's exactly, what it's for, to make sure that we take care of everyone and shore up our system, and that includes the most vulnerable.
Next question is from NBC 10 News. With schools closed now for the rest of the school year, has there been or will there be any guidance to youth sports or other youth activity groups about holding games or activities? Should they assume they cannot resume at least until June?
Yes, in fact, the Interscholastic League has said, for high school sports, that they were waiting to see what we would do about school, and if we were to cancel school, they would cancel sports. So I expect that now that I've made this announcement today, I think everybody will see that and start to make adjustments.
Tanya Signori of the RI Echo asks, this is for the doctor, there is hand washing, social distancing, etc. What else should Rhode Islanders be doing to help lessen the number of positive cases? Is there anything that you are seeing or hearing about that needs to immediately be stopped so that we can stay healthy?
The social distancing and the hand washing are priorities that we want to make sure people continue. Being able to wear face cloth coverings is also helpful for protecting the people who are around you. The key element continues to be, if you have symptoms of any type of illness, to stay home and call your doctor, call an urgent care clinic, and go ahead and get tested if you need to. We want to continue to focus on the key elements that will make the difference. Expanded testing broadly for everyone with symptoms, and as I have mentioned, in specific situations, we are instructing certain times when people without symptoms but who are connected should get tested as well, as I've shared in our congregate settings. Being able to assess that and get people into isolation and quarantining as quickly as possible is the key approach to helping to stop transmission of this virus.
Next question is from Tony Mendez at Poder 102 FM for the Commissioner. Can you share something positive that has resulted from distance learning that RIDE may recommend using next year?
Yeah, actually, there have been quite a few positive things that have happened, so we're really excited about that. What we've also learned is that we can expand, especially for our multilingual learners. Now we have access to different languages and materials in different languages that are virtual that we intend to continue to use, as well as for our students that have trouble a little bit with anxiety or being in school. We have seen the success of this model, and we're going to find different ways to continue some sort of distance learning for some of the kids that may need it as we move forward. Sure. Sí, la pregunta fue que si hay algo que hemos aprendido acerca del COVID-19 en términos de la educación, y la respuesta es que sí, hemos aprendido varias cosas. El primero es que ahora tenemos acceso a muchos recursos virtuales en el Internet, en muchos lenguajes que se puede para apoyar a los niños que están aprendiendo inglés como segundo idioma, y también para los niños que tal vez tienen ansiedad o estén bien enfermos, para cuando vamos a seguir hacia adelante, vamos a tener clases virtuales para ellos, para poder seguirle dando enseñanza, aunque estén en la casa, o diferentes maneras de tener accesibilidad a diferentes ambientes escolares que estén disponibles mundialmente.
Thank you, Commissioner. For folks at home, you may know that I've been reading questions that reporters submit in, and they come in real time up on this monitor. Jim Hummel has the following question. When will you reopen these closed daily briefings to reporters so we can ask follow-up questions in real time and in person, and not just the after call, which has often been chaotic? Virtually every other state has figured out a way to do it safely. Is it really about safety or control?
It's about safety, Jim, and I think you know that. When we change the guidelines after May 8th, we'll take a look at another format.
Next question is from Ethan Shorey of the Valley Breeze. Governor, the Board of Elections has indicated that there are discussions around changing the requirements for candidates on signatures needed to run in this year's election, but that it might take an executive order. Is that something you're considering?
I'll have to look at it. To be honest, I hadn't thought about it, but we are in close contact with the Board of Elections, and there are a number of changes that we're trying to make, including mainly allowing people to vote by mail. So it's something, if it's necessary, I'll consider it.
Our next question is from Eli Sherman. The White House has recommended 14 consecutive days of declining tests before reopening the economy. Tomorrow marks 14 days before May 8th. Will the clock restart each day? There's an uptick in new cases after tomorrow.
Great question, Eli. So as we've said from the beginning, we are looking at it more in terms of trends. So a few-day average, rather than just every day. And that's what I said when I began today. I keep hoping that the next day we'll start to see a trend downward. The good news is we seem to be plateauing, and the peak at this point doesn't seem like it's going to be nearly as bad as it could have been. And the other thing is, that's one measure, right? So we're also looking at hospitalizations. Are they stable or are they increasing? Mortality, is it stable, is it increasing? Level of our ability of our healthcare system to handle cases. So it's soon to say. I'm still eager to think about making some changes after May 8th to start letting people go to work. So let's just keep going, doing what we're doing, looking at the data, and hoping that it averages out to a place where we're going to be able to do something.
Next question is for Dr. Alexander Scott from John DePietro. Dr. Meyer said in Massachusetts they're seeing an increase in amputations due to patients having an issue but put off going to the doctor and their conditions worsened. Have you seen evidence of people avoiding medical attention and not going to hospitals?
We haven't seen that in our data as of yet, but we've recognized the importance of making sure that message is clear. People should be staying at home, following the stay-at-home order, but there are specific routine checkups that are needed that people should continue to do, and make sure that you call your doctor to work that out. There are ways to do that through telehealth. There can be specific times where you can go see your doctors. Many of our urgent care clinics are still open if you have an urgent need to be addressed. Children should be continuing to get their vaccinations. Pregnant women should continue to get the checkups that they need. We want to make sure that while we are in this COVID response, we are not avoiding the key elements that's needed to stay healthy overall.
Doctor, please field this next question from Ian Donis of the Public's Radio. Is there a link between higher incidence among Latinos and African Americans and composition of workforce at nursing homes and congregate living? If so, what can be done?
We are assessing the fact that many people of communities of color are part of our critical infrastructure workforce, and the importance of taking into account how to help make sure our critical infrastructure workforce has the support they need, the ability to social distance where it's possible, the ability to have some covering over their nose and mouth, ability to have access to hand washing and hand sanitizer, and the support they need if they need to be isolated or quarantined as well.
Next question is for the governor from Alan Gabberty of WBOB. The Rhode Island House GOP has called for critical reconvening of the Rhode Island House Oversight Committee to explore policies implemented during the state of emergency for good governance and transparency. What is your response?
Yeah, I think that's happening. I saw an announcement the other day, so I expect that that will happen, and obviously, we look forward to that.
Next question is from Ryan Belmore of What's Up Newport. When do you plan to make an announcement regarding daycares and summer camps? Many Rhode Islanders are concerned about going back to work without school, daycare, or summer camps as a place for their children to go.
Thank you, Brian. So today, we've put a lot of effort and energy into coming to today's decision around distance learning for K through 12 for the rest of the year and everything that went into that. As I said earlier, I'm not saying to parents, good luck, see you in September. What I'm saying to parents is, we're already hard at work. I'm figuring out creative summer programs as well as providing daycare and childcare. I hope to have something more to say next week about childcare and then summer camps in the coming weeks. We have a little bit of time on that. But what I can tell you now is there will be summer programming. It will look different than last summer. There will still be social distancing required, so some of it will continue to be virtual. But we'll have programming, and I don't know. We'll figure out in the next few weeks. We'll come back to you with details on what that will look like. The next big focus is childcare and daycare, and that too will reopen in stages, just like everything else. Will reopen in stages, and next week I'll have more to say about that.
Thank you. Next question for Dr. Alexander Scott from Patrick Anderson of the Providence Journal. Does the health department believe the coronavirus was present in Rhode Island before the return of St. Raphael's Academy's European trip? And do you have any data on all-cause deaths for March?
So the State Health Laboratory's capacity to test was developed and made accessible after the trip returned to Rhode Island. So there isn't a way to confirm whether or not there were previous cases in the state prior to that time. In terms of all-cause deaths for March, that's data that I don't have on me now, but we can work towards getting that to you, Patrick.
Steph Machado of WPRI 12 asks the governor, how do you go about reopening businesses while schools remain closed? You've previously expressed concerns about grandparents providing childcare. Isn't that inevitable if parents go back to work and kids stay home?
So it's a fantastic question, Steph, which is why the decision to decide whether to keep schools closed or open was such a difficult one. There are so many different factors, and you put your finger on a huge factor, which is younger kids. Childcare is necessary for their parents to go to work. And I looked long and hard at what, for example, Denmark is doing and other countries are doing. They only brought kids back in the younger grades, K through 3. So we explored every possible option. At the end of the day, after we looked at all the data and all the complexities and the potential health risks, given where we are right now in our peak, the fact is I probably could have maybe only opened schools for a couple weeks at the end. So again, I am certain it was the right decision, but we went through a discussion around what you're talking about. So what are we going to do? We're going to have to bring back online some childcare. We're going to have to ramp up more of our support with options like care.com and making sure people can get a babysitter if they need one. We're going to continue to ask employers to be extremely flexible, allowing people to continue to work from home, recognizing, I've been in touch with a lot of employers as well in discussing this. Every employer I talked to said, we'd rather you keep schools closed, and we'll work with our workforce to, be flexible and figure it out. So it's an issue. I'm not going to deny it. It's an issue. We're going to get creative. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to make sure that everybody stays as safe as possible.
Mary McDonald of Providence Business News asks, how will you ensure that employers do not interpret the over 60 guidance as a reason to not hire someone that age?
Yeah, so we haven't made any guidance, and we're not going to put out any official guidance which we think would allow that to be an outcome. Also, additionally, you ask a good question, and it's not, we're about to enter a whole new era of work. You know, some employers are talking about doing temperature checks every day. There are different risks for people of different populations. So we are going, in our work of trying to figure out how to reopen the economy, we have a legal team looking at exactly these issues. Just yesterday, I had a call with businesses. They're looking for guidance as well. I promise you this, I'm not going to allow or stand for any discrimination in the workplace on the basis of age or gender or race or income level or your ability to get child care. We're going to do that. We're going to adapt. We're going to be flexible, but discrimination is not allowed, period. And if it happens, we'll figure out a way to make sure that it stops happening and folks have a course of action if that's necessary. But I say that to, you know, the next year, not just in Rhode Island, in America, frankly in the world, we're doing something that has never been done before. Closing an economy, reopening an economy. We're going to do it. There's no doubt about it. It's our reality, and we're going to adapt. Every day we're going to adapt. New problems are going to come up. We're going to find solutions to those problems. But the basic principles, keeping people safe, getting people back to work, not allowing or standing for discrimination or racism of any kind, those are the principles that are going to guide everything we do, and we're going to find solutions as we go. And we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to learn, and we're going to adjust.
Our last question today for this Thursday briefing comes from the Westerly Sun. Reporter Cynthia Drummond asks, some residents in the rural communities of southwestern Rhode Island have contacted us to say they're worried about private campgrounds opening for the season on May 1st. They're concerned that the campgrounds will draw visitors from out of state. Do you have a plan to allow private campgrounds to open?
Yeah, great question, Cynthia, and thank you for your question. So yesterday I announced that I have tasked Janet Coit, the director of DEM, with coming up with a plan as to how we're going to reopen all of our open spaces, campgrounds, beaches, parks, et cetera. And so, and next week I will be making announcements, and part of that is campgrounds. So hang on for about a week or so. DEM is hard at work, and we're going to come out with something. I want people to enjoy open space. I mean, it's part of what makes Rhode Island great, but we're going to have to put, obviously, regulations around it.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.